From my heart to yours, thank you for being here, coming out. My name's Alan Clements. I think I know most of you. And there are people on Facebook that I have not met. Nice to meet you. I had prepared a talk tonight, which is not something normal for me. In light of our day-long meditation and mindful intelligence transformation training, the first one that happened Saturday, I had wanted to follow up with that, for me, beautiful day. And speak specifically to the intelligence that I see of the meaning of transformation. But if you would allow me, in light of world events, which I may add are nothing ultimately new. Pillage, tyranny, murder, totalitarianism, rape, genocide, starvation, all forms of natural disasters, humankind's inhumanity to humankind, to animals, to the earth, to the bird, to the cosmos, is decidedly nothing new. And tonight I'd like to make it something infinitely important. If not urgent. There's a word in Buddhist psychology called samvega. In short, it means spiritual urgency, the desire of the human heart, you, me, to activate, to turn on like wildfire one's own conscience, the courage to care about life, both inside and outside, contextual conscience. I care about what I do, how I speak, how I think, how I feel, how I impact life now and in the future. Fair enough? Samvega. It can be cultivated. The operating intelligence of it could be said to be compassion for self and other, a far-reaching desire for the care of life not yet born. It has implications that are profound. It could very well be the very thing which tonight's talk I'd like to speak about, which for me is ultimately the only game in town, is the end of violence. In light of world events today, the terror in Las Vegas, scores killed, hundreds wounded, a country, a nation traumatized. In context to Afghanistan, in context to Iraq, in context to the 11 million refugees and displaced people and the countless hundreds of thousands of others tormented into trauma that's unimaginable in Syria, Libya. Think no more about all the horrors in Africa. Think about our own city and our own country, soaked in genocidal blood. My own country of America. How many millions of Native Americans killed in the name of nonsense and lies called civilization? History and human history and life on this precious, ugly as shit planet, I don't want to ever become adjusted to violence. There's something that's growing very old in me and very upset. I want to develop a deeper revulsion to violence. I want to break through any cloud bank, any apathy, any fog, any just fatigue that says violence is acceptable. When I was a young man, I got into a tragic car accident, coming out of the hospital, still bandaged, unable to see. I remember hearing the news, and I was from the era of the 60s in Vietnam as an American, was always ever present in our heart. We grew up in a war culture, a killing culture, a lying culture, very similar to today, 40 years hence. I remember looking at the TV and seeing this infamous Vietnamese monk who lit himself on fire to show the world. We all remember that, either through story or image, or perhaps some of the people in Vietnam in direct experience, who lit himself on fire to show the world not so much as human destruction to self, but as a way to awaken conscience, to show the world the incredible suffering that burning will do, and what you are doing to the people of my country. I want you to awaken to your conscience, to your compassion. To me, that set me on a trajectory. I could not imagine, in my own personal pain and stitches and swelling and shame and all that's happened throughout history, I could not imagine that a human being would let themselves burn, purposely burn, to awaken the mind of others, to cease their denigration, their exploitation, their violence. And here I was feeling this incredible burden of my own pain. Alan, how will you overcome your ugliness, your own shame? And here he was trying to awaken us. And this too I'm willing to embrace in order to awaken the world's heart. That's my only point. I'd invite you everywhere in the world tonight to touch your own heart, touch your mortality, touch your vulnerability, touch the organic nature of in-breath, out-breath, and really feel the inseparable nature of oxygen everywhere. The denigration of the air in Shanghai affects the quality of the air in Berlin, obviously. But do we really feel that the nature of our own mind impacts the nature of the mind there? We're deeply physically interconnected. We feel the organic nature of earth moving, breath, in-breath, one big lung. But the challenge today for me, I see, which is bringing up the last half of this dialogue and opening it up to you and us, is how do we feel the deep interdependence of the psychical nature of our lives and our minds as one breathing, alive entity that feels the pressure and the pain of the woman who is suffering the loss of her daughter in Las Vegas tonight as our own tears. How do we get that close to life where we feel the impact of conscience and compassion? So much so, it's not just to feel, Alan. It's not just to feel. It's to do. The call to action to participate in the evolution of consciousness. The operating system for me today is in the power of looking at the experiential understanding of mindful intelligence. How can I bring alive my best qualities of inner beingness to you here and now and transform the space such that we awaken the opposite of violence, that we awaken compassion, that we awaken love. When I left the monastery, I was thrown out in Burma by dictatorship. I had no real understanding of dictatorship, but my teacher told me, he said, Alan, understand that the seeds of transformation are within you. The qualities of deep transformation are inherently within your own mind. Understand that. Put your mindful hands upon those qualities, and you are assured to transform them for the better. The form is useful, but it's mindful intelligence that awakens the finest qualities of the human heart. I call upon all of us tonight, even in my own life, your life, all lives everywhere. Can we either initially commit or reinstigate a higher order valued commitment to cease participating in any ontology, any belief system, any behavior, any thought pattern, any neuro-linguistic memory-embedded behavior, and cease, as much as humanly possible, participating in mental structures, verbal structures, emotive structures, psychological structures that impact life violently. And to me, what I'm asking myself to do is to understand the nature of righteous indignation, deluded impact denial. How does my speech, how does my thought, how are the use of the things that I have in my life impacting, affecting. All very basic cause and effect relationships. Can I put my mind, my psyche, my psychology, my emotions, this is how I talk to myself. I'm just sharing my thoughts with you. Don't take it personally unless you want to join the crusade to end the only game in town. One girl raped in this planet is way too many. One person shot is way too frequently. One war is over the top. Can we participate in the establishment of life and peace? What will we do? What does it take? One more rape? One more fight? One more war? One more what? Until we reach the end of the addiction to kill. I invite you everywhere in the world tonight, every human being, every president and prime minister, pope, priest, anywhere, anyone, wherever we are, to recommit, to look carefully at the intelligence of the human heart, to stop participating in blame. Decode the justification to take life. Decode it, come back home, trace the radiance back to the human mind, one's own mind, and say, wow, it's far better to retrieve my anger, to retrieve my fear, to retrieve my delusion, and look right in the mirror of my mindful intelligence and say, you have an opportunity to let go. That is a calling worth practicing. The practice of letting go of fear, anger, delusion, blame, judgment, projection, and begin to resurrect a heightened integrity that says, ceasing my participation in the game of violence is over. I am going to be someone who stands up and commits herself tonight, wherever we are, to participating in the establishing of human environmental peace. It's not that difficult if we stand in solidarity as units of peace and we commit ourselves to the transformation of our own mind. That's the key here. What we're doing here in Vancouver can be done in every city of the world. We're committing to the globalization of the intelligence of human transformation in context to self, to animals, to trees, to birds, to the environment, to the cosmos, to the unborn, anywhere, every dimension, everywhere, all time. I commit myself to the intelligence of transforming my own states of mind for the good, the true, and the beautiful. This is a calling beyond culture, language, ism, philosophy, dogma. It's right here, right now, and it comes to us in one simple phrase: mindful intelligence. Can I practice that high art of putting peace into action? And tonight I really beg of you, all of us here, all of us all over the world who hears this, sees this, wherever we go in this city, wherever we talk online, wherever we tweet, whoever we share with, that we participate. Are you asking the same questions? What can I do to no longer participate in justified anger, justified rage, justified delusion? Stop making other wrong and put once and for all, day by day, a little bit more love into this world and shine bright little candles everywhere, cliched as that is. My Lord, if we had no eyes and right now someone lit a candle of love in this room where there had been trauma and violence, we would weep in the sacred. Let us learn to weep in our journey to awaken the sacred. Letting go and enhancing the good, the true, and the beautiful. One person, one moment, one mindful here and now at a time. So that's the message that I try to live with tonight. I'd like to lower my eyes and head and heart belonging to the human race, the life of this planet, for all the violence that life has done to life, for the violence and the traumas all over the world, from the participation of my own tax dollars, for my own denial of my behaviors and speech and actions that have led to the possibility of the extermination of the life that we all love. We're coming possibly to the end of existence and any way that we've ever known it. But can we keep hope alive through the action of relaxing our hold on fear, anger, and delusion, and opening our hands to the power of love? Remember, what does human transformation mean to you? How sanvegad are you to excite that as the action and the vocation of your life? And participating in a non-theistic, non-religious transformation of the human heart. There it lies for all of us to take up this ancient quest. So, from my heart, namaste. Sorry to get so impassioned, but I wish I could get more impassioned. I would not want to think that what we're witnessing in the world today will happen to those near and dear to us, but that's not a good thing to say. I would like to think that life everywhere should be near and dear to us. And so it's a call to intimate interrelatedness along with this. How to feel other as self. How to feel the potential of thought, speech, and action, the impact of that on other before we think, we speak, and act. How to understand our impact on the earth, our impact on ourselves, our family, our communities, on history itself, on the future of life. Let's put that under intimate, mindful attention and become more sensitized to who we are as individuals and how we impact this world. So, time for dialogue and questions, whatever it might be. There'll be a little bit of a guided meditation at the end, but take your time, think about it. And we're here to share. If there's things that you want to share, you're welcome to come up here and just stand alongside me. We did it all day Saturday. If you have questions about meditation and what is transformation, anything at all that might be important to you, we're just beginning here in this next second year of community building and putting transformation into dynamic action. So I thank you for coming. But so take your time. What's important to you? Robin?
Listening to what happened in Vegas and things that are going on around the world, it's very upsetting to read about and hear about, but it also feels far away because we're safe, relatively safe here in Vancouver. So places that you've been and things that you've seen, like in Bosnia and in Burma, I mean, what's a way that you can translate that to us here to I guess, feel more outraged as to what's happening?
What Robin is saying, very interesting to me, very important, of how what has happened in Las Vegas feels somewhat both physically and emotionally distant. And how does one make the suffering of other more intimate to self here and now? Is that close?
Yeah. Just to...
how to personalize it, or how to ignite change as a result of it?
Yeah, like what can we do? It's a helpless feeling, right?
It's seeing that if we do not understand our own mind, we tend to act through the habits, proclivities of who we are. And turning the mindful focus in on itself, to look, if you will, to shine the light of mindfulness on psyche, consciousness, and source, we begin to see that these emotions, as you know, fear, greed, anger, delusion, love, compassion, wisdom, generosity, source within the human mind. Where they come from, we don't know. Maybe we have no idea what's pre-genome. But nonetheless, even with your eyes closed in intimate meditation, you can still feel outraged. So these accumulations are within our own mind. And if unchecked, if justified, next thing you know, you're conscripted into the crusade of killing.
Did you see that in Bosnia?
I've seen it all over the world. I see that good people are conscripted into killing, and often doing it with joy. There is such a culture club of killing on this planet that it's overwhelming. We do it as a matter of course. It's big business. And everyone is a crusader of that big business to some extent.
Because they're right, and the other people are wrong.
You know, when I was a monk in Sri Lanka after leaving Burma, I went to a place, a small island, a 5-acre island. I wanted to be someplace that was ultimately as peaceful could be on the planet. I had been in Burma during the latter years of Pol Pot's genocide of Cambodia, a neighbor of Burma. Burma itself was soaked in dictatorial blood from the tyranny of totalitarianism. The people had been tortured. The prisons had been filled. As a Vietnam era child, I lived in the horror of enlistment. I was in a military family. I've studied war. I've looked at war. I went to Vietnam. As far as the eye can see, you see craters where my country's bombs left holes of hell in the land. They defoliated the countryside in order to kill more freely without places to hide, where the land is concretized 40 years later and people are deformed from these defoliants called Agent Orange and so many others. Millions and millions of gallons of this stuff. We're a violent, violent species. This turned me into someone who wanted to understand a singular concept. And the Buddha said he practiced what he practiced for one reason, which was to establish a zone of peace in his own heart. He couldn't put out the fire of cosmological suffering, but he could turn the light of mindfulness in, so to speak, on one's own mind. And you could do what you could to become more nuanced with eliminating the arising or the conditions to arise of fear, greed, anger, and delusion, that if unchecked, you could become a crusader of hell. You know, and that's one of the things I've seen is, if left to my own strange, devious popularity at times, who knows, I could have been a president and enlisted you and lots of other people to kill on my behalf. It's so easy to justify killing in the name of freedom and democracy. Most people do it. And if you don't like that, you have got a religion to kill in the name of. So this island of 5 acres, I went there and lived. There was no speaking and no running water, no electricity. I found an oasis of peace. And I was a vegetarian at the time. And I began to enjoy living in this sacred land, walking as softly as humanly possible on this planet of hell, how I saw it. And I vigilantly practiced meditation pretty much day and night in silence to try to keep at bay and to go deeper and deeper into the more nuanced expressions of fear or anger. And I developed a fair degree of peace. But as I became more peaceful and looked around, Robin, the context of this island was anything but peaceful. I began to see that everything on that island ate everything else. The fire ants and the army ants would eat the iguanas if they got old. The iguanas would climb the trees and shake the branches of the egrets and the other big birds that came down from the Himalayas, and they would eat them as they fell. There were so many mosquitoes on island, you couldn't even stop moving when you talked. You had to just constantly move your body like this. And if you didn't watch carefully, you'd get all kinds of diseases. And I remember how dogs would survive maybe a month or two before a viper would take them out, and they would kind of boil over in 30 seconds and just become stiff, like a body does. And you had to watch out for snakes, and you had to watch out for spiders. I got bitten so many times by rats, mistaking me for food, which was actually really good food, not mistaking me for food. And I began to see in a very simple insight that there's no safety on this planet. There is no place that's free of violence, free of killing. Life kills itself and eats itself over and over and over and over again. And those who understand, interior biology, understands bacteria and viruses. There's a constant war going on. We had a friend come to our last retreat who was a scientist who works in Montana at the Institute for I don't know exactly the name for deep pathological studies of bacteria. And 50 scientists have been working for 5 years on one particular bacteria that is so lethal that it makes Ebola look like kindergarten. And they have no clue on how to stop it. There are hundreds of these things. And they're in deep uniforms. And we're living in an undulating universe where the status quo is that it violates itself. You look at astrophysics and you see 50 million square miles, light years square miles, where the holocaust of fusion is going so fast that it annihilates everything in its wake. Think of that level of hurricane and tornado and tsunami. And just for a minute, there's no beat of the heart that isn't vulnerable to the next beat, and immortality is as insane as, denying mortality. So in a way, what happens there happens right now. And there's no safety in any place on this planet from the violation of violation. There's not enough iron bars to keep you safe. There's not enough alarm systems. And the next thing you know, there are forces bigger and larger than ourselves, and all of a sudden, 23 years ago, I used to say in this very city, having come from Yugoslavia with Marcia, and having seen how good, cool, sexy, intelligent people like to kill each other in the name of, and watch the Western world, have televised genocide and did nothing. That what would happen if all of a sudden Washington State decided that Canada and BC was on the wrong side of the fence religiously? People talk about totalitarianism in my country today. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows? Who knows? And so it's always present. There's no real place of safety. And so the Buddha talked about, from my understanding, how to develop safety inside of one's own mind. How to take refuge from the storm. What does that mean? How to come out of one's own internal denigration, one's own proclivity towards justified violence or fear-based violence, either one. And so the only game in town became one of how to remove our attachment to greed, anger, and delusion. And to become more and more and more nuanced with that practice. And that's a very, very personal way to look at the sorrows of the world and realize that what's happening there is happening here, and it's happening to me simultaneously. In classical literature, it said the Buddha was living a life of luxury and comfort, but had some kind of awakening and decided to leave the palace, and he encountered someone who was old. He had never seen anyone who was old. And he asked his friend, "Who is this? This is an old person. And you, sir, are born into the same circumstances where aging is inevitable." He had never really thought of himself as someone who would age, strange as that is. And then he saw someone who was diseased and, bent over with hepatitis or dysentery, and he had no idea what disease looked like. And his friend said, "This too, sir, is a condition you can't avoid, disease." And then there's an old person, then a dead person. He'd never seen a dead body. Now mind you, if we had a dead body up here, I wouldn't necessarily invite it, but I know as nuns and monks in Asia, we'd often have dead bodies around. If you didn't see them, just felt them. And you go to autopsies and see, my Lord, look at this condition. How many times I would sit on the side of a burning god in India in Sri Lanka, in Burma, and just look at these bodies like phyllo dough being burned back, and seeing history and memory and family, and going, that could not be me, but it will be me. This is life. Life dies. Either voluntarily, or through mystery, or through the violation of other. There's only three ways. And so those who hear that type of universality of the struggle, the universality of suffering, well, when the Buddha was asked apparently, what do you teach? He said, I teach one thing and one thing only. That there is self-inflicted suffering and there is external suffering. Self-inflicted suffering we can control. And here's the teaching to do that, mindful intelligence. So. Other questions or things you'd like to discuss? Take your time, go there in your heart and mind. What might it be? Please.
So then how did he connect meditative state to that? Like, how does meditation inform mindful intelligence?
Well, meditation is the practice of mindful intelligence. It's essentially a mind that's taking responsibility for the intelligence of freedom, the intelligence of compassion, the intelligence of nonviolence. It's like the intelligence of health, and you're seizing upon the mindful intelligence of the beautification of qualities of mind that lead to peace inside and potentially lead to peace outside. It's the study of that intelligence. And that's the practice. And obviously it's a complex one, but it's definitely discernible. I've seen it in myself, seen it among many thousands of people, that you can cease participating in projection. You can reclaim your fear and transform it into peace. And there's something very beautiful about knowing that you can control your own mind and develop qualities of consciousness that exceed financial exchange. If it wasn't for the beautification of the mind, life would be somewhat meaningless. So, I hope that answers a little bit of the question. The study of the experiential study of the intelligence of peace, of generosity, of the intelligence of empathy. What's required to learn as a child would the language from first grade to the fluency a postgraduate or a novelist? What is the language and the intelligence of transforming the human heart from self-centeredness to the ability to embody other empathetically and to learn compassionately to serve the other as if they're serving their own parent or themselves? That learned art is meditation. That learned art is mindful intelligence. It's that study, and we need to, encourage each other to put our notes together, to take it out of the container of culture and language and ism. And what are the tools of this transformational trade? And how do we excite a revolution, for me, to make it mandatory, essential, that we teach it in schools and that it becomes a curriculum for leaders, politicians, prime ministers, that they have to undergo periods of deep, mindful, intelligent practice to understand these basic human attributes. How to decode your fear and projection. What is truly the truth of a situation? how to really understand the distinction between projection and illusion and discernment and reality. And what's a skillful means to something rather than a knee-jerk habit. You know, these types of dialogues. What does it mean to study and embody the commitment to global human rights? What does it mean to discover and study and inhabit the intelligence of freedom? Freedom that allows uniqueness and diversity and isn't upset when there's conflict because the other person isn't saying and doing things exactly the way you want them to do. So what is the intelligence of tolerance? This education of the heart, this education of the mind is meditation to me. This is mindful intelligence. And I think we need to develop an A through Z set of teachings and practices and ways that this could be shared with the children, the youth, transcultural in all languages, beyond all religions and through all religions. It's the music of freedom, the music of global human rights, the music of tolerance. On the high stage of all of our hearts, may this meditative intelligence be something that we enact as human, as we study diet, agriculture, as we study democracy, that the information that informs democracy into a living high art of fearlessness and freedom from need is mindful intelligence, how to coexist. What is the intelligence of peaceful coexistence? This is meditation to me. It's not Buddhist, it's not Hindu, it's not Advaita, it's not transcendent. It's the organic ability to enter the human mind and discern how to let go and see why it's wise to let go of anger and to reclaim the blame and to cease its involvement and find a more skillful response over the need to violate, which could be simply the intelligence of dialogue over destruction. You know, now mind you, these are inner arts, and there's all types of politic arts that come under the heading of rule of law and justice and responsibility and all the attributes of how to live in this world in a way that isn't denigrating to life now or in the future. But these are just empty words. Empty words. The urgency factor is so crucial that we need to just do everything collectively, here especially as a group, today and tonight and for the foreseeable time, to let's put mindful intelligence under intimate and infinite practice. You know, we have another day long coming up on December 10th, and may all of those who came on Saturday come again and bring everyone in their life so that we become a collective. And we all take good notes on the study of this out of the container of centrality, of theism, of dogma, of philosophy. And let's test it on the crucible of independent critical thinking. And let's ask hard, crucial questions of how it is not understood by looking into this. Let's learn that art of deep discernment together through collective, independent, cognitive liberty. And so that's the final thing I would say, is that take away an individual's freedom. And I've seen in my life, and I think you would say the same, they suffer the greatest loss. You take away their eyes, and I don't know what it would be like to adjust to blindness. You take away their hands, I don't know what it would be like to adjust to being without arms and hands. To take away their cognitive processes, their freedom to think. You've heard me say so many times, my dear friend who died of early onset Alzheimer's, how often we'd sit in a monastery thinking that the mind is noise, as some people say, or that you're not your thought. And then, as he deteriorated in his memory, amazing to me how precious one thought became. And it wasn't so much the issue of I'm thinking and therefore noting thought. It became for me a real deep passion to understand, am I thinking the thoughts that I want to be thinking? Mindful intelligence is learning that you can control, evolve, develop, and heighten value systems that reflect your grandest, most exalted principles and values. If we can't imagine these things and inhabit the intelligence to make them real, we're missing a very fundamental faculty of meditation, the power of imaginative, wise projection, and walk into those structures of intelligence and learn to inhabit new pathways, neural, linguistic, all forms, and anatomical, psychical, to take the violence out of the genome of birth. And I'll end with this. I've often said that I really feel that the only real peace prize that should be given, that's noble, from Mr. Noble, is the end of cosmological violence, planetary violence, the non-violence of the cosmos. Who can decode violence from existence? And that's mindful intelligence. That's meditation in dynamic trans-religious action. That's compassion in action. And it takes scientists, it takes philosophers, it takes human beings, it takes women and mothers giving birth and learning how to re-educate this cosmos, rewire it, re-engineer it. What are we not seeing that we still think that violence is right? That's meditation. Until we have a clear handle on that so that we can pass on that architecture easily, person to person, child to child, we should make haste. What is the meditation, the mindful intelligence of urgency, of samvega? That's something that we need to ask ourselves. How is it that we can reinvigorate our lives at this age to be crusaders of the new kind? I'm going to re-envision the Dharma that I got turned on to 40 years ago and be a virgin. That's what I'm calling for here in my life. How to be a spiritual virgin and start right over again, here and now, in my own mind. Alan, do you commit yourself to letting go of your own fear, your own anger, tracing back that radiance, and empowering the good, the true, and the beautiful? One person, one breath, one moment at a time. And that we create oases, so to speak, small and temporary as they may be, of peace, of transformational wisdom, that we know when I look in your eyes, you're an individual committed to the evolution of mindful intelligence. I'm consciously employing it day and night. The way I stand, the way that I buy, how I buy, what I don't buy, who I talk with, how I live, how I change, how I confront, how I do all that I want to do. I'm not going to take any more time off. You know, all hands on board today. And that's how I personalize it. That could be you. That could be your boyfriend. That could be your family. That could be your dad, your mom, your brother, your sister, if you have them. That's you. It's me. In some way, it's only an illusion to think that they're them. That illusion of them is the quest of mindful intelligence to decode other as self. Just think of our children in our lives how do I make you my sister? And feel you as sister. Feel you as inseparable, breathing the same oxygen. If I saw you struggling tonight, I would just instantly, oh my God, we're both in this together. What's the intelligence of this? We're in this together. And to me, that's the intelligence of caring. And so I think the more of us can develop a culture of caring, as it's been said, the more the wave of that caring will be felt. And I think it's just time to really just do more and more and more, not so much out there. I'm calling off personally my activism and making it personal to myself. I want to be a living example more and more of the passion of change. And let that be the only inspiration that I have. How are you doing it in your own life? So, thank you for the question. Cool. Are we okay? Getting close to the final question. If you had one, don't hesitate. It can be anything. If you have anything you'd like to ask or talk about, please take a moment and think about it. So what I'd suggest then, if there are no more questions, we can cease that. And we're just going to sit maybe for 10 minutes in a little bit of a guided meditation if I can, and then take the last 10 minutes just to hang and say hello, and I'm here if you want to talk individually. And so just so that we make it a really human experience, community building experience. So if you would, just sit on the edge of your seat or wherever you are, make yourself more comfortable. And just hang there. And sit upright if you would. And take a couple of slow inhalations and just let yourself breathe out in any way that you want to breathe. You can hear yourself exhale and inhale if you want, and just make yourself a little bit more cozy in your body. On whatever you're sitting on, put your hands either together in your lap or on your knees, and just kind of chill. Exhale in a way that just allows us to arrive, no hurry. Another moment, another breath in the life of life. In breath, out breath. Sitting upright, lowering the chin, closing the eyes gently. And slowly, when we feel ready, to inhabit the entirety of the body with this invisible, mindful presence. Just feel. Mindfulness has the capacity to feel that which is present in the moment. Just feel. Feels physical sensations of pressure, tension, vibration. It knows the state of mind, if we're tired or restless, or that we're excited. It has the ability to recognize those states. Its only function is to take us intimately face to face with the present experience. Occupying our body and our minds with mindful awareness. Mindfulness of sitting. Basic beingness. It may be obvious, but allow me to say it. The mindful mind here that inhabits the body and the mind, it's the practice of self-responsibility. We're saying to ourselves quite directly, I want to know myself as I am, inside of myself, as it arises, and take it out of the circumstances, out of the context temporarily, and just feel the organic arising of life coming through our human beingness. And we're equally immersed in it. There is no place to be outside of life looking at it, passing by. There is no shore to the river. There is no bank that we can say we're out of the flow. We are in organic existence, breath by breath. Let our breathing process be natural, not to control it. Let it sink into the lower abdomen, in the chest, continuing to sit upright. Keeping the eyes gently closed. Now for the final few minutes, each of us in our own way we know without a doubt that there is an innate intelligence operating in and through and around us that we are all embedded in. The body is breathing on its own, beyond our own name or desire. There are innate processes, miles and miles of veins, the organs, the trillions of neurons in the brain, pathways of interconnectedness, the blood, the breath, our bodies, and we sit in the intelligence of a world not of our own making, an ecosystem, a planet at this very moment, orbiting a sun in predictable patterns. Spinning, orbiting in a solar system, in a universe, a multitudinous nature of galaxies upon galaxies. We are embedded in a strange, mysterious, and at times discernible intelligence. Let our mindfulness go directly into the organic intelligence, however you feel it. Infuse this innate intelligence with mindfulness and just feel in, beyond, above and deep, and rest. And let life move through this awareness. Clear, invisible, pure, knowing. Functions to feel. It contains the breath and it's bigger than the breath. It contains the body and it contains all bodies. The earth, the cosmos, We don't know where we begin or end. We're mindfully expanding into this innate intelligence. I want to know you. I want to know what's knowable. I want to come to understand you. I want to transform with you. I want to participate in the evolution of this intelligence. Mindful transformation. And please, for the final minute, go where you're called in your heart and mind with this quality of mindful presence. May all beings in this world come to understand the beauty of love and compassion and the wisdom of reclaiming fear, anger, and delusion. May we all lower our eyes and raise our hearts and open them to the suffering all around, far and near. May we all, in our own personal way and collectively, reestablish high urgency, deep respect, a personal dedication and commitment to self-responsibility and the transformation of our own mind, overcoming anger and delusion, fear and greed, and doing all that we can to inhabit the good, the true, and the beautiful. And please, whenever you feel ready, to open your eyes and so, thank you from my heart tonight for coming out. I'm touched and honored that you're here. I know many of you for some time now. May I just simply invite you to keep finding that place in your own life to activate these qualities. Come around again if you would, bring your friends, your tribe, and if you want to stay tonight for another 5-10 minutes, I'm going to hang. I'd love to meet you. Feel free to come up and talk, and certainly feel free and encouraged to talk with one another. This is not just a community event, but this is a life-giving experience that we are developing a solidarity with really beautiful qualities. So hang a little bit and see you next Monday. Oh, or you come to Gastown tomorrow. We have a Tuesday night now at Moment Meditation, 7 o'clock. And so see you soon. So thank you.